What would actually make a difference if your favourite character inside of this story ended up being a she instead of a he? What actually makes the story different? We'll be finding that out today into What If Deku Was the Hella Boss. I made that sound really odd, but let's begin this stuff, shall we?
Blitzo the O is silent, thank you very much, sighs as he rubs his head. Last night was the full moon and fuck did Stolas made him tired, stupid bird brain. He sighs thinking of his love life with Stolas. After so many assassination attempts, one that almost caused Blitzo his life, Stolas finally divorced that hag of a wife of his, more like tear her limb from limb, and they have been publicly dating for a few centuries. Now lots of reporters kite Killjoy been wondering when one of them would pop the ring. I mean, I wouldn't mind. Blitzo thought to himself as he places his chin in his hand. But both of us are a little afraid of having a family again. With Luna and Octavia now fully grown and are at colleges, and with what happened with Stella, it's reasonable that we don't want to rush things. He grumbles thinking about Kite's last review on his relationship with Stolas. So what if they've been dating for centuries now? He blinks when there was a crash and he glares. Milo, for fuck's sake, how many times did I tell you not to throw weapons in the office? The 8-year-old imp blinks at him and smiles, showing his sharp fangs with a gap in his teeth. He looked a lot like his mother with his white hair in a messy bob style, which had the same pointy style as his father's on top. 2 black and white striped horns curved out of the messy white locks, while his long tail whips behind him. Sorry, Uncle Blitzo, he squeals, jumping onto a table. Auntie Sally May gave me this axe for me birthday, and I can't help myself. He swings the axe, making Blitzo duck down cursing. Well, wait till your ma comes back from getting lunch before you take my fucking head off. He shouts, making the boy giggles. For fuck's sake, you take after your mother, but have the Christmas of your damn fucking father. He shakes his head as the boy giggles and jumps off the table, making Blitzo roll his eyes. For fuck's sake, where the hell are your parents? Why is it taking so long for them to come back with our fucking lunch? He growls in anger. He then blinks when there was a knock on the door. Knowing it wasn't going to be Millie or Moxie, he went to it and opens it to see a sinner demon. Like most of her kind, she had a different appearance. Light purple skin with her hair being made of flames. Hello? She glares at him. This is the office for IMP, right? The immediate murder professionals. Blitzo nods and gives his winning smile. Yes, it is. Got a scumbag son of a whore you want dead. Note, we only kill those in the living world, and we pay extra if it's a hero. Another good thing over the centuries beside his relationship with Stolas was that business was fucking booming. About 100 years ago, some kid started shining like a fucking light bulb. Shortly after, many other people started popping up with powers. No one knew the cause. It was still a mystery even to Stolas, who said that Lucifer was complaining because more people were dying, making Pride even more overpopulated, but some humans became used to it. It became their normal. The supernatural became normal, made it easier for his company to go into the human world without disguises. The mortal world became a superhuman society, with 80% of the population possessing some canny ability. The streets looking like scene from Monic books, cities swirled with chaos and confusion. A new profession dominated the humans' collective consciousness, an age of heroes, as the humans said. Blitzo really didn't get a fuck, but lots of humans been killed by villains or corrupted heroes, and lots of them come to his company since they get pissed off. Oh, don't worry, it's not a hero, it's a fucking cult. She snarls, making Blitzo raise an eyebrow at that. Why don't we go to my office? He waves a hand, and she nods her head. Milo, tell your folks that I'm in a meeting. Got it. Milo squeaks out, holding his axe with his eyes sparkling, making Blitzo shake his head. Closing the door, he sits at his desk. Okay, so what's the deal, Toots? The lady growls, her hair burning more. Nothing much. had a normal life as much as you can get with being one of the few people born without a power. But unfortunately some people didn't like that. This cult never really know the name, and I didn't give a fuck. All I knew is that they thought quirks were the blessing from God, and that those who don't have it are stains of demons and evil. Was on my way home from work when I was grabbed. Was tortured for the next week for being quirkless before I was killed, so that my stain wouldn't corrupted those blessed. She shrugs her shoulders, but there were anger in her eyes. What I want you to do is kill them, torture them, and burn them down before they could do it to any more quirkless people. She holds up a claw when he opens his mouth. I know you probably don't give a shit, but the thing is that nobody came looking for me. Nobody went looking for me because I was quirkless. There will be no burial for me because my body will never be found. I don't want that to happen to anyone like me. Blitzo nods his head, pretending to listen. Okay, so you want us to kill a cult? Got it. Do you have the money to pay for this? The woman rolls her eyes, but holds out a wad of cash. Blitzo gets a shine in his eyes, and he takes it. Glad to do business with you. May I know your name, and where we can find this cult? Acme, even though it doesn't matter anymore. She then gives him the address of where the cult was. He opens the door to his office just as Millie and Moxie came in. Don't worry. That cult will be giving no more sacrifices after we're done with them. Cult, Moxie yelps, almost dropping their lunches onto the ground. Sir, what do you mean by cult? That's what I mean, you dickhead. Blitzo glares at Moxie. We're off to kill a cult that killed our lovely lady here. Now let's get to fucking work. Moxie sighs while Millie giggles, dancing on her feet. Well, there goes our lunch. It didn't take them long to open a portal, even if his loony was now in college along with Octavia thanks to Stolas. Luckily they had Milo to open it up. He looks at the warehouse where Acme said the cult was using as a place of operation, and he couldn't help but sneer at the smell. Oh, this is going to be one of those places that get haunted by shit. Moxie shivers, rubbing his arms. Man, how many people did they kill here? It's so cold. Who knows Moxo KM and M? Let's fucking get to work. The humans weren't prepared for them. They were honestly worse than those DHORKS. All those years ago, which he thought was impossible, he was ripping and shredding them with his favorite green dagger, shooting them in the head and balls. He could hear Millie screaming in joy as she uses her axe to cut a head in half, while like him Moxie was using guns. Blood dripping down his jacket. Fuck, that's going to take forever to get out when he entered a room after blasting the lock off with a bullet and chokes at the feeling of dark magic in it. He shivers. After living with Stolas for many, many years, he was able to sense this sort of thing. Not do it himself, but he could sense the thick fog of magic in here. He narrows his eyes and holds up his gun. Walking carefully down the hall, he raises his eyebrows at the dead bodies that were laying around. Shit, did someone get here before us? He mutters, walking over a pile of innards and kicking a head that was chopped off. Moxie looks over and shakes his head. Doubtful, sir. Everything points to this place being secret even from the human government. Him and Millie follow him into the hall. Blitzo turns to them. M&M, get ready. I think these humans fuck things really up. He finds himself leading them into a room and groans. Oh, for fuck's sake. His eye twitches at the melting candles, the impaled bodies, some missing parts and chunks of flesh, and the drawn symbol of blood. He then holds his gun up as something move in the darkness, sniffling and whimpers coming from the shadows. Millie pulls a flashlight out of her bag and points it at the shadows to reveal a young girl about Milo's age sitting in the corner. Blood covered her, making her greenish-black hair matted and some tufts were torn. Her eyes, large and circular, the iris flashing between an emerald green to a pitch black, were staring at the imps. Her hands were grabbing her head, morphing between regular human hands and claws. Her clothes were torn, her shirt hanging off her shoulder, and like her was drenched in blood. "Oh my Satan," Millie whispers, "it's a child." Now normally she would be okay with killing a human child. They done it before, but maybe after raising Milo. She looks about Milo's age. Moxie whispers, but turns to see Blitzo putting his gun down. "Sir." The girl looks up at them, eyes turning to pure black. "This body belongs to me now." The voice coming out of the child's body didn't sound like a little girl's voice. It was deep and raspy, blood spilling out of her mouth. "You lowly imps will not take this body away from me." "Fuck, she's possessed." He snarls, watching the girl's body being forced to launch up the wall, crawl along it like a spider. Fuck, Hell's relationship with the living world is already crap, Blitzo mutters, keeping an eye on the possessed little girl, thinking about the rifts that had opened up in the last 100 years. He pulls out his phone. "Millie, Moxie, keep an eye on her, and make sure she doesn't escape this building. I'm calling Stolas." The demon-possessed girl growls and hisses, blood straining from her teeth as her body is forced to move beyond human possibilities. Moxie then screams as the child leaps at him. Blitzo ignores this. "Come on, bird brain, pick up, pick up. Stop thinking of your bird pussy Stolas. But I do need you to come over. I'm in the living world was going to kill this cult, and somehow the freaks got a little girl possessed, about Milo's age, and is now trying to rip out Moxie's throat." "I'm on my way," Stolas said with a sort of no-nonsense tone in his voice. He watches as a portal opens up and Stolas walks through, his red eyes narrowing on the girl that Millie pulled off Moxie. Well, this wasn't supposed to happen. He takes a step closer to the girl who hisses and growls at Stolas. "I'm surprised that the angels haven't come. I suggest you leave this body now. You are not welcome." The girl tilts her head, blood and ooze pooling out of her body. "This is my body now." A deep laughter erupted from the girl's mouth. It was so easy to take over, like her body is fit to hold more than one soul in it. Stola's eyes glow brighter. "I hold dominion over you, and expel you to the furthest ring of hell." The girl gives a scream back, arching as a pool of blackness erupts from her mouth. Yellow eyes glares at them before they faded away. The girl then falls over, flat on her face. Blitzo couldn't stop himself from going to her and picking her up, cradling her in his arms. "Stolas, what the fuck is that about? Angels, or the fact it was easy for that demon to possess this girl?" "Sir is right, your highness," Moxie said, leaning against Millie. "It takes days for a demon to possess a human." Stolas sighs, rubbing at his beak. "First, I must ask you, have you heard of a mortal called All for One?" Who hasn't heard about that piece of shit? He's the reason why hell keeps getting rifts into the human world. He's killing so many human before the executioners can purge anyone. We have to explain to the human governments that yes, hell is fucking real. No, you can't kill us. Yes, there is nothing you can do about the rifts. Yes, demons would come out and maybe have some fun times with the humans, making half-demon kids that can easily live both in hell and in the living world. Stolas nods his head. "Yes, well, my dear Blitzy, the child you are holding is the only person who can kill All for One. The only person to erase his soul, so he won't fall into hell." "Say what?" Blitzo looked down at the child in his arms, who was now curling closer to him, but her body was still trembling in pain. "How can something this small defeat a bastard like that?" Lord Lucifer was worried that when All for One finally does die, and he will die no matter what he thinks or what sorts of deals he makes. But we do not need another radio demon in hell. Even Blitzo couldn't. He helped the shiver of fear. Alastair was already freaky enough, and there being two of them. No, he did not want to think about it. It's a good thing that the radio demon is so fascinated of the Princess Hotel during the last century, and by the looks of it won't be changing his mind for many, many more years. So with that, God created her, giving the quirk that would FT with one for all. One for all, Millie mutters. Weird names for these fancy powers. Moxie rubs his neck. Sounds like the motto for the musketeers. Stolas nods his head. Yes, it does. But one for all is quite different than all for one. One for all lets a person pass down a quirk, mixing with the stockpiling quirk that fuse with it. The stockpiling quirk not only stockpiles strength, but also the souls. This young lady's quirk will allow her to not only talk to the souls, but allow her to use the quirks that are attached to them, making her strong enough to beat all for one. She was born to erase his soul when he dies. Stolas hums and looks around the room they were in, looking at the ceiling before looking at the girl again. What I find odd is that the child is here. She should at least have been protected by some angels, but I don't even feel any sense of heavenly aura around here, nor on her. Well, they're doing a fan-fucking-tastic job of doing it, Blitzo grumbles. So, what now? Moxie said. We killed all the humans here, do we just leave her here? Unfortunately, no. Stolas sighs. Her quirk makes it extremely impossible for anyone taking anything away from her, since all for one wants one for all. So while I did banish the demon from her, the darkness is still in. Staying in hell will allow the darkness to natural come out of her, instead of letting it fester and allowing the demon to come back in. Wait, we're bringing a human to hell. A child. Moxie cries out and Blitzo looks at him strange. Mox, this isn't the first time we brought a human to hell, Millie points out and Moxie glares at her. We don't talk about the bratty kid Mills, Moxie said with a deadpan look, shuddering, remembering their first job. The child needs rest and healing that the living world would not be able to give her, and Lord Lucifer would want to know about this. Blitzo looks at Stolas with concern in his eyes, seeing the flash of fear in his bird's red ones. I guess he isn't going to like this. No, he is not, Stolas says with a sigh, but both mates turn around when they hear Millie walking over. They see her going to a desk that they didn't notice earlier. They watch her open a drawer and begin pulling out folders before she smiles, seeing one. All right, I found the little one's folder that they had on her. She holds it up, showing that attached to the folder by a paperclip was a picture of the small girl in his arms. He holds back the urge to coo at it, because damn it, the girl was almost as cute as his loony. He looks down at the sleeping child and couldn't help but frown. Who would hurt such a girl? Where were the angels? A child this important being unprotected. It left a bad taste in his mouth. He shakes his head and turns to Stolas, who opens a portal. What's the kid's name anyway? Izuku Midoriya, Stolas said as he leads IMP back into hell, closing the portal behind them and leaving the warehouse with dead bodies as if nothing happened. After dropping off Moxie and Millie at the office to pick up Milo, Blitzo and Stolas returned to the palace. The imp couldn't help but look down at the child, Izuku, who looked much more comfortable than earlier. I guess hell is already removing the darkness from her. Come, we must wash her. To remove the blood, Blitzo looks up and nods his head as they walk past hallways filled with plants. Blitzo could feel the eyes of the servants on them, and knew it was because of the human in his arms and not because of him for once. Even after all this time, they still didn't understand why Stolas was dating him, and sometimes neither could he. They enter the luxurious bathroom surrounded by glowing circles of zodiac signs and floating constellations. Stolas easily turns on the water with a wave of his hand and makes sure it was a comfortable temperature. With the two working together, they easily took off the rags and placed Izuku into the tub. Blitzo tries not to growl at the whip markings, or the bleeding knife wounds, or the old and fresh burn marks on the girl's skin. What in Satan's name did this kid go through? Like, sure, I can understand the whip marks and knife marks, but these burn marks, a lot of them looked way much older. It didn't take long to get the kid clean, nor did she wake up. Drying her off and wrapping her in a towel, they left and headed to one of the guest rooms. Blitzo blinked at the pile of clothes on the bed. I had one of the servants bring some of Octavia's old clothes. Stolas chuckles, seeing his confused look as he puts the pink with white stars dress on her. Placing her in the bed, Izuku uncounsily curls underneath the blanket, muttering in her sleep. Blitzo couldn't help the small smile on his face, and looking up he watches as Stolas runs his hand through her green-black curls. Come on, Stolas, let's see how those fucking freaks got the kid. Stolas blinks and pulls back his hand, coughing into it. Oh, of course. We must find out how they got her from her parents, and how they even got her when she is supposed to be guarded. Blitzo snorts. If they were from the CHERUB, I am not surprised that they're pieces of shit. He looks up as Stolas laughs and rolls his eye when Stolas begins to pinch at his cheek. Blitzo pulls out the folder that they found and opens it. Name, Izuku Midoriya. Age 8. Birthday, July 15, 20XX. Father, Hisashi Midoriya given parental rights up. Mother, Inko Midoriya deceased. Siblings, Mikumo Midoriya elder brother. Description: the child born quirkless was sold to us by Hisashi. Tainted with the lack of a quirk, her curse has ruined Midoriya-san's life. After she was declared for the disgusting being she is, Midoriya-san lost his job when he was about to be promoted. He soon went doing other jobs to make it through. Soon he begins to think of the child, not really being his, as during the years Inko would disappear for many days, even weeks, before the birth of the thing. A few days ago, Midoriya's son, in a fit of justified rage and anger, killed his wife, in front of the girl. Knowing he can't have any witnesses, he called one of our members who he was good friends with. Selling us the girl, we paid him handsomely for the taint, and even gave him a job in America. And what is even better is that the taint for some reason had an angel. We were able to capture them and got more material from other demons for our god. Her sacrifice will do so well with our god. Most of the taints have been adults and elderly people, since those unblessed are from the older generation. Maybe sacrificing her will release her, our god, from Gehenna. Blitzo growls, claws digging into the paper, eyes glowing in rage. Those fucking slime balls, those bloody cocksucking whores. Stolas gently takes the paper out of his hand and puts it back in the folder. Stolas, we got to do something. We got to. I will be telling our king about this. I promise, Blitzy. Blitzo stops, hearing the anger and rage in his voice. He will know what to do. He needs to know this, Blitzo. We need to have a plan, especially since now the child is an orphan. Blitzo grits his fangs together, but sighs, slumping on the couch. He looks up as Stolas wraps an arm around his waist, pulling him closer to him. He knew that Stolas was feeling the same rage as him, feeling anger and hatred. Now normally they wouldn't care about kids except their own, especially human kids. But what really ticked them both off, that it was a dad to sell her. A dad is supposed to protect their daughter, and he hurt her, even sold her for some money. Stolas rubs his head against Blitzo and churs, but soon pulls back and sits up. I will be gone for a while. Izuku will be awaking soon. Please, darling, will you watch her? While I doubt the servants will harm her, I rather make sure Lord Lucifer is already going to be angry enough as it is. Blitzo nods his head. All right. But you better come back home, bird brain. Stolas smiles before he leaves, carrying the folder with him. Blitzo couldn't help but frown and walk towards the room they put Izuku. No, the human. In opening the door a crack, he sees that she was still asleep, curled up underneath the covers. He frowns at himself. What is going to happen to her? He didn't like it, but he knew how those who were quirkless were treated. Those who are born quirkless in this generation usually don't last to their 15th birthday, and he even heard that some aren't treated right by their parents because of their lack of quirk, getting killed as soon as the diagnosis. And even though Izuku, human, had a quirk, from what Stolas said, it wouldn't really fully activate until she gets one for all, because that fucking quirk collects souls. Blitzo shakes his head and closes the door, rubbing his face. Don't even think about it, Blitzo. You can't keep her here. Humans don't belong in hell. Unless they had gotten out of their hell loops, becoming a sinner demon themselves, there is no way you'll be able to adopt her. Heck, when she wakes up, she's going to scream in fear. Stolas looks up at the large palace, the only place that remained the same as hell used to be before Lucifer found his queen. Ash falling from the sky, Stolas climbs up the black stone stair to the entrance. Another demon was there, a sinner demon with long blonde hair that curls at the end and wearing black glasses. Her green with white splotches skin fit really well with the shape of her head, which was a dice. Wearing a brown tweed jacket, a pink shirt, and gray skirt, her clothing seemed out of place for a regular sinner demon. But Stolas knew that she could wear whatever she wanted, as she was their king's therapist, and the mother of his nephew, who was oddly named Charlie as well, and has an on and off relationship with the eldest brother, Amenadiel. Looking up, she smiles, closing her book. Ah, Lord Stolas. She stands up, closing her black folder. How are you doing? She then smirks. Have you popped the question yet? Stolas felt his feathers begin to rise up, and he coughed into his hand. Oh no, not yet, Linda. Oh, you better pop it soon, bird boy. She snaps her fingers at him. I didn't take so long to talk you all those years after your falling out with that bitch of an ex-wife of yours. And I greatly appreciate it, Dr. Martin, Stolas said with a smile. But I need to speak to the king. It's urgent. Linda blinks but nods her head. Lucifer is in the study, playing his piano. Stolas had to wince at that, but nod his head at the devil's therapist before heading towards the study. Hearing the melody echoing through his ear, he takes a deep breath before he knocks on the door. Enter. Walking in, he sees the king playing at his piano and waits for him to be done. His pure white skin seemed to glow brighter in the darkness, making the red cheeks seem more like blood. Wearing his trade are a white high-collar suit, black bow tie, and red undershirt, humming a melody underneath his breath. Closing the door behind him softly, he stills when the black slits of his king looks up and he smiles. Ah, Prince Stolas, a pleasant surprise to see you here, very pleasant surprise. He sits up, wiping his hands. What can I do for you? Is this about your hopefully marriage to that imp of yours? It's been 100 years now since you two officially started dating, and I am tired of hearing Lilith and Linda talk about when it will be finally happening. Stolas takes a deep breath, trying to calm his nerves. Sire, I wish it was good news. As you know, my beau has his own company. Lucifer waves his hand and walks over to a bar, grabbing some drinks. Ah yes, the IMP, that assassination company where they go to the living world and kill those who had pissed off the sinner demons. Using your grimoire, he laughs at the shock look. Your little imp does have that catchy jingle, you know, all are the TV. And even though it does give us more citizens, I think it's hilarious, definitely gives me a good laugh. So what about it? Stolas feels himself tense, and not in the Blitzy is putting his big fat cock in him good way either. They were ordered to kill off a cult that has been killing off those who are quirkless. Blitzo had to call me, because they found Izuku there, blooded and possessed. Stolas couldn't help but gasps, clutching at his throat at the force that erupted from his king. He bends to the knee as he sees the black slits burn red in his true face. His demon face begins to show. "What?" Lucifer growls, eyes red and glowing. "How?" he asks, glaring down at Stolas, who gulps and hands him the file. Growling, he opens it, reading it, and then curse under his breath. "Fuck, I knew I told them that this was a bad idea. But of course no one listens to me, of bloody course not." He paces back and forth. "Fuck, I wish Maze was here. I would had loved to give her some toys to play with." He then turns back to Stolas. "What happened to her?" "I was able to force the demon out of her, but the darkness still resided in her because of her quirk activating. I had to bring her to my palace so that hell's atmosphere will draw out the darkness that I couldn't get out. She's resting in a guest room." Lucifer hums at this, and his devil face slowly fades away. Now this is a predicament. With her quirk activated, any ghost or demon could easily possess her, and even if it wasn't well. He smirks, running his hand through his hair. "Well, we can't have the little creatine be pushed off into an orphanage. She's all alone. All because of my dear brother Michael." He snorts a bit. Looks like his time down here didn't help him with anything. Stolas jumps when his king's fingers snap, and Stolas freezes at the sight of the tall man wearing an elegant white outfit that consists of a white top with pink and purple around the base, purple gloves, a tie that is pink with white dots, a white suit shirt and undershirt along with jester-styled pants and pointed shoes. His dark purple hair bounced in the air as he appeared, and his dark green eyes narrowed in curiosity at Stolas. Stolas does his best to not react, because beside his clown-like appearance, this demon was powerful, much powerful. "Mephisto, can you do me a little favor and get that angel you brought from that dreadful and obnoxious Valentino to the healers? And then I need you," holds out the file, "to find the sinner demons whose scent is attached to this. Make sure the Lilim have something new to do." Mephisto smiles and takes the file and grins, eyes glowing in anger as he looks over it. "Consider it done, your highness." He then disappears like he wasn't even standing there a moment ago. Stolas holds back the sigh that wanted to escape from his mouth, knowing that the king was still there, especially when Lucifer turns to him. "You and that imp of yours, both of you have daughters, right?" Stolas gulps at this, but nods, too scared to speak. "So that means you have experience." He then claps his hand. "Then congratulations, you and your lovely imp are now proud papas of one Izuku Midwaya or Izuku Gosha. Now since I doubt she would want the same last name as that bastard." Stolas stutters at that, all four eyes wide and pupils showing. My king, but she's a human. She cannot stay in hell for so long." Lucifer waves a hand. "Oh, then make her your official daughter. I know for sure that Grimir has an adoption spell in it. It will make her into your own flesh and blood, then it wouldn't be a problem." He then looks up. "Actually do that. I would love to see dear old Mikey's face when he finds out." "Sire," Stolas begins, "won't they be angry?" "Of course they will, but hey, this is hell's problem now anyway. It should have been brought to us anyway. I mean, the point for the girl is to kill all for one and destroy his soul, so that way he doesn't come down here, right?" He chuckles, shaking his head. "No, I don't care what dear old dad says. It's better if she is down here with a family that will love her and give her the training she needs." He gulps down his drink. "If they wanted to complain more, then they should have given her something more than one angel, even a virtue angel such as her to protect her. No can control ice, and even beaten up Valentino's ass when I had Mephisto go see why I was feeling holy energy down here. But even virtue angels can't fight off the chains that those cult used to bind her. They had their chance, he smiles, eyes glowing red, and now it's our turn. Mommy, am I a bad person? A woman with shoulder-length green hair in a ponytail turns to look at the little girl standing behind her with tears in her green eyes, the green eyes that the both of them share. She places the plate she was cleaning back into the sink and walks over, kneeling down. Sweetie, why would you think that? The little girl, about 7-year-old, sniffles. Because Daddy's friend said that I'm a demon, that I'm cursed because I don't have a quirk, that it's my fault that Daddy lost his job. She sobs, tears stream down her face. And demons are bad people, right? The woman sighs, glaring at the door where she knew where her husband was sleeping passed out drunk, before she wraps her arms around her daughter, her little girl. No, 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 baby, you are not a bad person, and not all demons are bad. She giggles when the little girl looks up at her in confusion. Sometimes they're just doing little tricks and pranks. Like Mikumo, with Kochin, the little girl asks, talking about her older brother who was in U to be a doctor. Her mommy smiles and nods her head. Yes, very much like Mikumo. But do you want to hear a story, Izuku? Izuku blinks up at her mother and nods her head. Aha. She smiles as her mother picks her up and heads to the living room. The little 5-year-old curls closer to her mother when they sat on the couch. There was once, before the great floods, a child born from an angel and a human. They were kind and welcoming, even during that time when humans were the worst. He became a spirit of justice, his goal to protect those in need. But one day he was tricked, captured, and brought down to hell, corrupted him, driven him insane. But yet, his mission to protect the innocent didn't change. Even as he focused more on punishing the guilty, he still was a protector. He just became a spirit of vengeance. Izuku looks up at her mommy. What was his name? Inko smiles. His name was Zarathos. Green eyes open wide as tears stream down from them. Sitting up, Izuku rubs her eyes, ignoring the faded throbs of pain that she felt across her body and the urge to throw up. Her heart ached as she remembered listening to her mommy tell her the story of Zarathos. Beside All Might, she loved Zarathos because even though he fell, he still protected them. Even though she felt sad that he drowned during the great floods. But she shakes her head, wincing a bit as the throb of pain, and looks around. Instead of her cold, blood-filled cell, she was now in probably one of the fanciest rooms she has ever seen. It's even more fancy than Kochin's room, Izuku thought as she climbs out of the queen-size bed, thinking of the nice house that her best friend, no, he hasn't been my friend since I was diagnosed, lived in. The walls were a soft purple color, a violet, she thinks. She was never really into colors beside red. Red is her favorite, but it goes horrible with her green hair, while the floor was a soft-colored black carpet which was soft under her feet. I haven't had anything soft since my time there. She shivers at the thought of the cult members, the pain they gave her, the screams she gave them when she felt all that darkness in her, heard the voice in her head telling her to let go, to enjoy as her body was forced to do something against her will. But it compares to nothing to the memory of her mother's death, that she will no longer have her mother's hug, no longer being able to listen to her stories. She wouldn't even be able to see Mikumo anymore, even if they even looked for her, which she doubts since she was quirkless. Her brother was 16 years old and wouldn't be able to take her in. Her mother had no family that she knew of, and her father sighed. Well, they made it known pretty well what they think of her when she was diagnosed as quirkless. Seeing a red glow coming from the window, Izuku slowly walks over and opens the balcony doors. Her eyes widen at the red sky and what looked like a pentagram. Looking down below, she sees a garden where what looked like little red men were working on the garden. Izuku blinks, but then takes a step back when small round creatures with 2 cat-like ears and 4 minuscule spike limbs along with a long tail tipped with a triangular point floated in her face. Waving her hand to blow them away, she takes a step back, fear gripping her throat. Am I dead? She thinks to herself as she slowly turns to the door, opening it slowly. Moving through the dark hall, taking care to keep an eye out for anything. Her green eyes looked up at the many portraits of bird people that hung up in the gloom of the hall. Hearing a noise, she enters what looked like a living room, where she sees one of the demons that saved her W sitting on the couch. Looking at the television, she sees that he was watching Spirit. Ha, as if that stallion going to let you ride him. Fuck, I love watching this movie, no matter how many times He turns seeing Izuku and she blinks at him. Something in her told her that she could trust them. He was one of the ones who got the mean voice out of her head. They made the pain stop. Hey kiddo, the imp pauses the movies and slowly walks over to her. How you feeling? Izuku shuffled on her feet, gripping the pink and white star dress she was wearing. Okay, I guess. Better than I was, thank you. The imp shrugs and waves a hand. No need to thank me. I was just doing my job. The name's Blitzo. The O is silent. Izuku blinks. What O? She was confused. He just said his name was Blitz. Blitzo smiles. Exactly. He then pauses when he hears the Izuku's stomach growl, which makes her blush. Hey, I'm hungry. You want some food? Izuku stares at him as he holds out his hand to her. She stares at the red skin, the claws before looking up to the horns and red eyes. But she felt no hatred, no fear or disgust maybe. Maybe her mom was right. Not all demons are evil like her like Hisashi or his friends say, and beside her mommy and big brother. Humans haven't. They haven't been the nicest to her. People had called her a curse, a demon maybe. Maybe they were right. Maybe she did belong down here. Mikumo will hate her. She's the reason why their mom was dead. He wouldn't want anything to do with her. Thank you all for watching this video and goodbye.